Today on Locked On Rockies, I saw an article on Purple Row I didn't talk about, which raised an interesting question. What are the Rockies going to do with Greg Jones, and how can we set our expectations for 2025?
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock On Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 18th day of November in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network and on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies, and we'll read them out because that's what we're going to do in segment number 3, just like we did last week. We're going to keep reading your comments. If you have a question, if you have a concern, if you have something on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies, head on over to the Locked On Rockies YouTube page, leave a comment, ask the question. We want to have the discussions you, the Rockies fans, have on your mind. So please head on over there, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and make sure that you are leaving your comments, your questions, your Rockies hot takes for us to go through and read them. Today on the show, we're going to talk about Greg Jones. I thought this was a player that it came over to the Rockies in an interesting move, and then how the Rockies handled him has been interesting. And it kind of sets up an interesting conversation about expectations and setting expectations for the Rockies and how hard that kind of is for us to really do. Like I said, we'll also read some listener comments as well, and that's our show for today. So we're going to have lots of fun. We're going to dive in here. Before we dive into everything, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So you might be like, Paul, why are you talking about a guy that only played 6 games with the Colorado Rockies last year? Why are you talking about a guy that we don't quite know how he fits into the Rockies puzzle at all? And that's exactly why I wanted to talk to him, because there's a piece over on Purple Row, and it's crazy to think that just if you're ranking by WAR, Greg Jones was in the top 20 Rockies last year. Just if you're going just by WAR, I understand 6-game sample size. Just throwing the numbers out there. Just how, Purple Row's, that's how they do these rankings. They just take Baseball References WAR, they put them in order. That's how it goes. And I actually really like when they're doing these, ranking the Rockies. And Skylar Timmons writes this piece, and I just wanted to highlight some of the stuff from this there. The Rockies are well known for making confusing and head-scratching moves. In the middle of spring training this year, the Rockies swung a trade with the Tampa Bay Rays, acquiring former first-round pick Greg Jones in exchange for Joe Rock, one of the Rockies' top pitching prospects. Jones, 26, had been drafted 22nd overall in 2019, and while he hadn't been terrible in the minors, he hadn't exactly flourished in the Rays system. Once he fell in the pecking order for a job at shortstop, the Rays decided to try him out in the outfield, particularly in center field, to see if his speed could open up more opportunities for him. His efforts proved successful in 2023, and then a couple of numbers there. But here's why Bill Schmidt says they made the move. He's making strides with the bat, and you're talking about an athlete with tools. He brings a tool set that we don't currently have in our organization. Rockies general manager Bill Schmidt said at the time of the trade, it's impact speed. He's primarily a shortstop, but we always saw he could play the outfield too. They moved him to center to showcase his athleticism. So while all of that is great, and I love the idea of plus speed, and I think the tool set of Greg Jones is interesting, but he's where and when is Greg Jones going to get playing time with the Rockies? If he's going to be the backup shortstop, the backup middle. Later on in the piece it mentions that Alan Trejo, Aaron Schunk, these type of guys were taking playing time from him, even during the time where the Rockies had injuries in the outfield that they needed to replace and back up with. It just goes to show you where it's just like, why make this move for a pitcher that had upside, a lot of upside, and that I'm a homer for because he came from my alma mater. But how are you going to incorporate Greg Jones into the blueprint here? What exactly is the plan? It is good to have a backup shortstop, absolutely. It is good to have a backup utility player that's gonna go on the bench. But is Greg Jones ever going to get the time that he might require for us to see in action the speed? Are we going to be able to get Greg Jones on the field at the same time as Brenton Doyle for the both of them to add speed into the lineup that we haven't really seen and had before? How good of a spring does Greg Jones need to have for him to even become a factor here? Bouchard, Bryant, Doyle, Jones. I mean, the list goes on and on. I know we don't want Chris Bryant in the outfield, but still. It's a situation here where the log jam of outfielders, of young outfielders, and what you're going to do with them continues to spring up here. So while I am intrigued with the Greg Jones tool set, is that going to be enough to find a way onto the field, especially with at the expense of a pitcher that you traded away for, a pitcher with high upside? Let's dive a little bit more into the numbers here. Just what it looked like here and what the upside type is. Jones ended up playing in 86 games with the Isotopes, slashing a solid 269, 360 or 346, 460, and 406 plate appearances. Switch hitter tool, there you go. Displayed plenty of power with a career high 16 home runs and 42 RBI while showcasing his greatest tool, his speed. The Rockies have definitely lacked speed over the year, and Jones lived up to the hype by becoming just the third player in Isotopes history to steal 40 bags in a season, as he ended up with 46. Even more impressive is the fact that Jones was caught stealing just 3 times. So that alone right there is huge. We have preached the importance of stolen bases at the major league level here, and we've preached the importance that the Rockies need to be a team that's better at stealing bases, need to be a team that's more aggressive on the base paths, need to get faster as a team, and Greg Jones is going to fit the bill. He didn't have great success in his very short time with the majors. 6 games, 1 for 6, 4 strikeouts, his only hit being a solo home run against the Dodgers. But remember, this was a time where Tolio, Bouchard, Chris Bryant all injured, and there was just some interesting stuff after the call up on June 6th. By interesting, I just mean, again, what's it going to take? What's it going to be for what's it going to take for the Rockies to find and carve out a spot here? Is there even a spot here? And I do wonder, like, if you're a player like Jones, because even in that piece that Skylar writes, talks about and emphasizes, just how even a change of scenery is a good thing, even for those players. It wasn't working for Jones in Tampa Bay, so now you have a chance. Former first-round pick, like we mentioned. But it goes back into the camp of Rockies development. It goes back into the camp of a really, really crowded Rockies outfield. But I do like some of the tools that are in that. I see why the Greg Jones possibility is interesting. If you do have a speedster that can play outfield defense, that could be a game changer for right field. That could be a possibility for Jones. It's another player to keep your eyes on as we go through spring training here and see what happens. The battle for right field, holy cow, is just going to be so many young guys trying to get an opportunity. And it's just, is Jones going to be able to be put into a situation to succeed? Is not Nolan Jones, we're talking Greg Jones here. Are we going to really be able to get a chance to see Jones use the tools at the major league level? That's not an easy question to answer, because let's go back to Skylar here, to Skylar's piece here. It's hard to pinpoint exactly how the Rockies may view Jones going forward. In their efforts to improve the bench with some experience, it may be hard to justify putting Jones on the bench as a rookie despite some of his versatility, speed, and bat potential. His lack of walks and an abundance of strikeouts also pose an obstacle that negates the speed he provides. Boy, does that not sound familiar for a lot of Rockies offensive players. It's still difficult to decipher what the Rockies were thinking when acquiring Jones. With the two position he plays locked up with two Gold Glove winners who made massive strides offensively in 2024, there isn't much room for him to play unless he adds other infield positions to his repertoire. Even then, he's not exactly the ideal bench bat for a team looking to improve its bench options for the coming season. Truthfully, at the end of the day, and through no fault of his own, Jones was not a player the Rockies needed to acquire. However, it would be good to give him a fair shake in spring training or give him an opportunity somewhere else. That Skylar nails it right there. You haven't ironed out the walk problems and the strikeout problems for the other guys. So you're going to add in another guy that you're going to have to change completely around and then find spots for him. I don't think the Rockies are going to rely on Greg Jones being the bench player. I don't think that should be the idea when you're thinking of a young guy like Greg Jones. But it's a move the Rockies made. Meanwhile, as Skylar points out, in case you were curious, Joe Rock, who the Rockies traded for Greg Jones, Rock had a solid year in AAA for the Rays while he struck out a career-best 132 batters in a career-high 139 and two-thirds innings while posting a 4.58 ERA over 27 appearances, including 23 starts. So, again, take it how you will. I think that there's some interesting tools from Greg Jones. There's interesting possibilities. But it's hard to even pinpoint any possibility of Greg Jones getting on the field if everybody is healthy. And we know that that's probably not always going to be the case. Injuries do happen, but where does Greg Jones find himself on the list of replacement players for people on injuries? And how high on that list? Mixed in with how confident can we be in the Rockies' ability to develop Greg Jones into a better player, into a player that gets on base more, into a player that strikes out less? We'll see. Spring training it will be interesting for the Rockies when it comes to position battles, for sure. Mostly what right field looks like, but how does the bench take shape? What type of moves do the Rockies make before spring training? What type of moves, what do the Rockies look like heading into spring? And that's going to help us kind of try to set the expectations. And as we try to form those expectations, we will maybe get a clearer idea of this team. But to be totally honest, it's kind of difficult to even know where to even gauge my expectations for the 2025 Rockies. And I'll explain why coming up next on today's episode of Locked on Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. All right there. All the information you need right there. Easy-to-use app, safe and secure. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Remember to please play responsibly. This is the Locked on Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked on Podcast Network and on the Locked on Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. We're going to go through some listener comments here in just a little bit. So remember, if you got stuff on your mind as a Colorado Rockies fan, let me know in the Locked on Rockies YouTube comment section. Let me know what's on your mind, Rockies fans. Your support throughout the offseason has been awesome, and I really, really do appreciate you all tuning in each and every day. Shout outs to my everydayers out there tuning in, keeping things locked on Rockies as you go through your weeks and go through your days. It makes it a little bit easier, I feel like, when you can hang out 30 minutes of Rockies talk. And I know it's a little, we're in the weeds right now, right? We're trying to find the stories, go in there, but that's all right. That's what we do. This is the off season. It's the slow time. We gotta do what we can do here as we navigate this off season, an off season again, in which I don't know. I don't know if anybody's building expectations for themselves for the Rockies. This is kind of where an easy segue here. It's hard to know where I want to set expectations for the Rockies, mostly because there's still so many things that are kind of jumbled up, and for the Rockies to figure out before I'm sitting here abundantly confident in the direction that they even choose. It's a weird mix for the Rockies where I don't know what Senza and Marquez are in 2025. It's been so long since we've seen them healthy, ready to go, geared up. And Herman, we only got to see the brief moments before being shut back down again. Is he going to be fully healthy, ready to go to start the season? Is Senza, after all that time removed and the encouraging but small sample size that we saw, is Senza's pitching style and everything going to work in this, with this team? Are the Rockies going to be able to create an outfield that is not only great on defense, but also one that can contribute at the dish? I don't know. And then again, truly deep down, if we're trying to find ceilings for the team, or we're starting to hypothesize possible early win-loss combinations, I want to sit here and be like, this is a team that can hit 70 wins. This is a team that can ricochet off the bottom of 100 losses and shoot themselves upwards. I thought that last year, honestly speaking. But it's hard to know, because there's still too many unknowns on this team. There's still too many things that haven't been broken. Bad things. Ryan McMahon's inconsistencies on offense, in inconsistent times. The hot and cold nature of Brendan Rodgers, and even just the commitment to Brendan Rodgers for the future. The strikeouts. I mean, we can't even sit here and even talk and start focusing on steps forward for everybody on offense on this team if this team isn't better at not striking out. And all of the areas of concern that we have, all of the issues and the things that people are concerned about the Rockies, are back in the hands of the people that fans have had concerns about. So as we're trying to create and build expectations for 2025, I don't think it's that crazy that people's expectations are probably even lower than usual. I think that there's too many situations in which the Rockies coaching staff and these players have to prove themselves in some areas. And that's not just for the fans. It's the Rockies as a team have to start playing better baseball. They have to take every single member of the starting roster for the Rockies and the bench players all need to develop and start advancing forward, especially just because the gaps between them and the other teams are only going to get wider. This is an offseason in which the Dodgers will still most likely add. You never know what the Diamondbacks and Padres are going to do this offseason. And the Giants are completely rehauling, reevaluating, doing a bunch of stuff, which could lead to being some really interesting stuff coming out of San Francisco. And that's just focusing on the division. My expectations for the Rockies and their performance against the NL West next year are not high. I have the Rockies not only being I have the Rockies really struggling against the division next year. If I personally, I think if you thought the NL West was tough before, it's only going to get more tough. The Padres are not going to just stand idly by and let the Dodgers keep running rampant over this. I know they had a big loss in their organization. Someone did pass away. I remember that. And so I don't know how much that changes the equation for them. But the Padres have shown a team that they're going to be aggressive and go after, and they're a team that has shown that we can fight the Dodgers. We can compete against the Dodgers. We can beat them. They've beat them in the playoffs before. Didn't work out this year, but they certainly have done it. So I guess that's some examples of why I think the division stuff just muddies the water as well. But just like with Greg Jones, how we were talking there, there's a lot of untapped potential. It feels like with a lot of guys, there's tools here, there's speed, or this guy can hit, this guy can pitch, this guy can do X, Y, Z. But then when it's time for it to be demonstrated on the field, then when it's time for to give some guys some actual consistent playing time, it doesn't happen. I just don't know if I can't sit here and say I believe in this Rockies coaching staff to prioritize getting the people at bats that need at bats at the expense of putting a lineup together that can win. That's when you see the veteran heavy lineups that the Rockies put out last year, when you see all of the playing time for certain players last year, that goes against that idea. And there has to be a point where it's not, obviously everyone's goal is to always win ball games, right? Obviously. But in the situation of the Rockies, shouldn't you be trying, and shouldn't the last two seasons be ones where you try as much as you can to get these guys developed? Get these guys as much experience as possible. And for Greg Jones, as an example, to only get 6 games, get 6 at-bats at the major league level, what's that really doing for Greg Jones? For guys that get called up and sit on the bench and do nothing, while Jake Cave plays, Sam Hilliard plays, I do want to know, from the development standpoint, how does that help players get better? Calling them up to have them sit on the bench to do nothing, to just be in the environment, to just see major leagues, to watch major league pitching, to get in the cage. Like, is that it? And is that enough for this team to help set expectations? I don't know. That's just where my head's at when it comes to trying to think of my expectations for the 2025 Rockies. It's hard to set any, because it's hard to know what to expect, except in certain positions. And at those certain positions, I'm still hesitant, because it's got to be, the path needs to continue forward for some guys. And it's hard to keep going forward without any setbacks. And I'm just worried about setbacks this year for some of the Rockies' best. I don't want it. I don't see anything in the cards. It's just baseball. It could happen. All right. Let's wind down the show with some listener comments here, coming up next in segment number 3 of today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Gametime. Gametime's got you covered if you need tickets to your favorite sporting events. But wait a minute. It's not just sporting events. It's concerts, shows, comedy. You need tickets, Gametime has you covered. And maybe you don't want to spend all that time looking around for the next cool event. Maybe you don't want to spend all your time scrolling through the Gametime app to see what's cool coming through town. Well, guess what? Gametime's got a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You can see all the features for yourself, like the view from your seat, the lowest price guarantee, where Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. If you find tickets somewhere else, you can see all the deals for yourself on the Gametime app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms do apply. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Game time. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk. Shout outs to our everydayers out there. For your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB. Our guy Sully has got you covered. All right, couple of listener comments here for you to close out the show. This is from a season ticket holder. Matthew here says, okay, I'm a season ticket holder since 2008. The one thing that keeps me coming back is the fear of missing out. I can see a world where in 2027 or 28 or 29 that the Rockies can make it back to the World Series. It's a lot of hope, but what if a team led by Veen and Fernandez and Tovar and Doyle and Roma with the pitching staff led by Dollander, Palmquist, Brecht, Sullivan, what if they make it back to the World Series? That's what keeps me renewing my season tickets is eternal hope. And you know what, Matthew? I love it. I that's why you buy into a season ticket package right there. You don't want to miss out. You love you love even just the possibility of good Rockies baseball. That's enough for you. Not to mention all the other added bonuses. Like I said, baseball, it being a fan of baseball and especially a bad baseball team, it goes deeper than just that. If you have a good connection with that, if this is something you can do with your family, good on you. I'm telling you, folks, I understand there's frustration here. We got people, we got people not happy with the ownership of the Colorado Rockies, and hesitant to support them. But it's on the flip side, it's okay to be a fan like Matthew there. I think that I like this team, and I don't want to miss it when they're great, when they got the greatness coming, when they're coming and when they got championship on the mind, and maybe it does with the players develop. Maybe it does become a possibility. 3 years from now, who knows what happens? I like the optimism, Matthew. I like the optimism. All right, here's what Jim has to say. The ownership of the Colorado Rockies has been a real disappointment in the last 4 to 5 years, just like the lack of wins on the field. And I unfortunately feel that if the Rockies don't turn the corner in 2025, as in seeing some improvements across the board for the team, that the Colorado Rockies could end up being a footnote in Colorado history. I hope that it doesn't happen, but I fear that it really could happen in the next 5 years or so. I hope that I am wrong. I want them to win, but how many times can a person keep hiring someone to beat them up before they finally end up dead? Not trying to be mean, just making a point. Yeah, there's a lot of this is the first time I've heard what sounds like the Rockies would leave Colorado, would move Colorado, would move and such. And I don't have any read on that. But on the flip side, to go back to the rest of Jim's points, I mean, this is a season in which this team has to show us that they can that improvements can happen across the board. Absolutely. Because you committed to the coaching staff again. You committed to the people that you have said have the pieces in place, have the skills, have the talent. You have the personnel that you say that you want is going to help the Rockies get back to that championship level or that competitive level. This is a situation in which the Rockies, this is a huge, it's not really just a prove it year for some players to get themselves on the field. Sure. It's another prove it year for Bud Black that depends on who you ask if he earned that one. It's certainly for another prove it year for the rest of the coaching staff. There's a lot of things that have to happen in order to build confidence back into this team, in this team's ownership, and in the leadership of this team. And it has to start with this season. I mean, again, people outside of the Rockies, people that don't follow the Rockies are still scratch their heads and wondering what the heck is going on over here in Colorado. Time for this group, the leadership of this team. It is time for them to prove it. It is time for them to demonstrate why they are in the positions they are in and why they are running the jobs and taking the titles that they have. It is so important that the Rockies see big time development across the board there. And I'm with you, Jim. All right. That's all we got for now. We'll have more time for questions here on the shows. There's still some comments we haven't gotten to over the last week. So we'll dive into some of those and more, but don't worry. The conversation with you Rockies fans never goes away when you head over to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Fire off those Rockies hot takes and let me know what's on your mind. Let me know where you want the conversation to go with the Colorado Rockies off season here. Let me know what's on your mind. Rockies fans, because that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, and we're on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. For your second listen of the day, why not go hang out with our guy Sully and see things from around the world of baseball? And if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Buffs, all free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Folks, until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.